You know, folks, in Arkansas, there seems to be a new breed of candidates that are willing to challenge the party line, break ranks from status quo, and challenge the dang rhinos who have infiltrated the Republican Party. These creative minds wants to think for themselves and represent we, the people, instead of marching to the same beat as the career politicians. Folks, it's time, and we need fresh eyes, fresh thoughts, and attitudes in our government if we are going to salvage America from the jaws of communism.
Recorded live right here in Little Rock, Arkansas. It's time again for Larry's Rants, Raves, and Reviews. And now, back to Larry.
Well, folks, we've had some of those forward thinkers on our show lately. We've had Randy Sams, who did a wonderful job.
Sure did.
Christian Olson, a brilliant young man. Brian Norris, boy, he just knocked it out of the park.
Sure did.
That's just to name a few of these people. And on this episode, we have yet another forward thinker, young politician who says, I am not a career politician. Randy, he actually has it in writing on his website.
I said, if it's on his website, it's got to be true.
It's got to be true. I've got it in writing. He says, I will not hold office more than 10 years.
That is correct.
That's right.
Now, if we're still on this podcast 10 years from now and he lies to us,
Yeah, we'll bring him back on.
we're going to bring him back on and call him a liar, right?
Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are wanting to welcome our guest and hopefully soon to be friend,
Yeah.
and hopefully soon to be congressman here, Chase McDowell. Chase, welcome to the show.
Well, I appreciate it, guys. And I promise y'all that I will not serve in the House of Representatives for longer than 10 years. I promise you that.
Good deal. All
if
right.
For some reason, they think I will be a great senator maybe one day. But I tell you, I think after 10 years of doing that in Washington, I will be happy to come back home and have me some land with some cattle and call it a day.
Well, there you go. There you go. Well, I will tell you this. You're looking, now I don't like to speak on behalf of Randy, okay? I don't speak on behalf of him because I am.
He usually does. Go ahead.
I am a really wild kind of guy, so just hang on for the ride. But I've got to tell you, you're looking at a guy right here and probably one right over there that we hate the government with a passion. We loathe Washington, and I don't trust one person in government.
Yeah. Well, I don't blame you. That's actually why I did this. So,
Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're wanting to do this.
Absolutely. So, I grew up in Southwest Arkansas, and French has tried to hit me really hard on that I grew up in Southwest Arkansas, but I'm not ashamed of it. I went to a school in a community that's about 500 people now.
Well, you were raised in Texarkana, right?
Well, I was actually in a town called Stamps is where I grew up. So
I know where Stamps is.
Right. Most people, we're usually not on the map, even when the weather. We always pick that the weather just skips right over us. It goes from Texarkana to Magnolia. But my family owned a trucking company. And there was a furniture company there called Allen White Furniture, some of the best furniture made in America. And we hauled that furniture all across America. We were their licensed, trucking company that hauled that. I mean, in all 48 continuous states, we hauled it. And then a private equity firm came in and bought that company and shut it down. So what did my grandfather have to do? Kind of like what most Americans had to do. We had to figure out what we were going to do, which we went into flatbed and all that kind of stuff. So, I grew up with not much. My daddy was a truck driver. He worked every day of his life. I wasn't around my father that much growing up because he was gone working, but I was proud of my father. But I got to see him on the weekends. From there, I went to Southern Arkansas University right there in Magnolia. I worked at an independent pharmacy there, and then I was picked by, and I hate to say the name because it's a publicly traded company now, but when I worked for them, it wasn't a publicly traded company, but they were a pharmacy software company. And for legal reasons that go way past this, I just don't mention them, but they were number one in the industry when I worked for them. And basically, it was kind of like that show Bar Rescue, if y'all have ever seen that. I went into pharmacies that were struggling, and we would help them improve their business model and all that kind of stuff. And, one proud feather that I always had on my cap is that I came from the great state of Arkansas, and we had the best pharmacy association. So we would sit down with them. I'd say, hey, you need to have an association. You've got to fight this healthcare. We can't do it alone, because everything we would do in Arkansas would be a punitive damages for us the next year. So when we would go after PBMs and we would go after insurance companies, they would just penalize the fire out of us the next year. And y'all see, so many independent pharmacies in Arkansas just had to shut their doors. And it hurts me, because in Arkansas, like most rural parts of America, which that's most of America, you go to your pharmacist for your health care. You can't go to the doctor, you can't get in, or the doctor's 40 minutes away. I mean, I was born in Texarkana, Texas, because there was no other place for me to be born, and that was 32 years ago now. It keeps getting further and further away. It's funny how that happens, isn't it?
Yeah.
But
Sounds kind of young to us.
Well,
go ahead.
Well, it seems like yesterday when I blinked my eyes, I was 21, and now I'm 32. So it pops, it just kind of happens that way. But even back then, I was born in Texas, because there was not a place in Arkansas for me to be born. So a lot of these things that we hear about in the news and all this kind of stuff, man, they've been problems for me for my whole lifetime, or been problems in Arkansas for 100 years, agriculture and whatnot. My family prior, of course, from the past, they came to Arkansas back in the 1800s, been there for a long, long time, fought for the Union, fought in the Revolution. I mean, McDowell's been in America since the very beginning.
Okay.
And I'm the only person in my family that's had any aspirations to run for office, but what I saw was how hard my grandparents had worked, how hard my father worked, and, my dad almost lost him in 2020, and he survived 2 pulmonary embolisms during that time because of COVID, and no one would see him, and the doctors and all that kind of, the stuff that went along in 2020. And I'm very fortunate to have my father, because those 2 PEs, pulmonary embolisms usually are a death sentence. So the Lord's always shined on us. It's been a rough life. We've had to work for everything that we have. But what I noticed, just through life is how hard we work, the communities that I lived in. These were good, honest people, Norman Rockwell style life. It was a beautiful place. But to watch it just integrate over time, completely forgotten by Washington, completely forgotten by Little Rock. I mean, I can go into the state capitol. No one knows where I'm from. And that bothers me, because we spend all of that money in taxes. You give so much to your government, even though you shouldn't. And we throw to you in a harbor for a 2% tax, And you kind of look at that and you say, well, why is it that in America, a husband can't just work? He's not the only one that can work and provide for a family of 4 anymore. That's not possible. I've butted heads with some of the more comfortable, affluent people in this district, because they say, well, there's plenty of jobs, but there's no career. And there's a major difference between a job and a career. You can have a dead-end job, and a lot of people are stuck at dead-end jobs because of their health care.
Sure.
My health care plan is completely different. What I want to offer to the American people is you have a Blue Cross and Blue Shield plan of America. It's yours. This also takes a lot of burden off of corporations as well. It's your plan, that is yours, that you pay for. Now the corporations can say, hey, we offer so much to offset your healthcare cost, instead of having to go through corporations and have private and have this Affordable Care Act mess that we find ourselves in, because it's just driven prices through the roof. It's the same thing with taxes.
Folks, that's Hussein Care that he's talking about.
Right.
So let me just kind of have a
so
little
it's Obamacare
there.
Yeah, it's Obamacare.
Well, we call that Hussein Care around here.
Right. And it should be. And the
You're
thing
running
is,
for office, be nice.
well, I told everybody I would have had to have voted yes one time for 1 year to fund that, because if I didn't, and it's because of the failures of my own party. We've had over a decade that we could have fixed health care, and we didn't. Just like the former governor of this state could have not accepted ACA and said, no, we're not going to be a part of it. But Asa Hutchinson comes in, BB signs on to it, Asa comes in and says, yes, we'll be a part of it. Call it Arkansas Works. And most Arkansans are completely unaware, even based off of their income, it doesn't matter, because they're all lumped in a Medicaid program in Arkansas. So if I didn't do that, some average families would have saw a 3,500% increase, or $3,500 increase in their insurance. that's why I'm a little bit frustrated with how Republicans are handling it now. I think the president has great intentions by saying, hey, we're going to help you with your health care costs. But the issue is I don't think he understands the business model behind it. Because if I send you a check for $2,000 a month for health care or whatever that may be, what's going to happen is the PBMs and the insurance companies are going to come in and they're going to, in 6 months to 3 months, when they see that they're not making money, they're going to say, hey, this is your rate hike. But right now, the way that it works with Blue Cross and Blue Shield or whoever your insurance provider is, they have a team of Philadelphia lawyers with cigars this long, and they say, no, this is what we agreed to. But when it's you versus your PBM, you're going to get screwed in the long run. So now you're getting a check from the government, and then they're still raising the prices. What I want is a complete dismissal of PBMs. And if you'll notice, French is talking about PBMs now because he knows that it's a winning tool because that's what I talk about everywhere I go.
Okay.
Because pharmacy benefit managers, they were started in the 60s, and they were supposed to be a middleman between you and the insurance company. So they were actually supposed to benefit you and the provider. Sounds great on paper, but what happens with most government things? What we've allowed in our industry is we have allowed, or in this country, we have allowed, so CVS Caremark is the worst one. They own your doctor, they own the clinic, they own the insurance, the PBM, the drug company, mail order, and the pharmacies. So they own every bit of it.
Right.
There's not one part of it that they do not own. Mm-hmm. So if you're an independent pharmacist or a doctor or whatnot, you have to pay your competitor every time you see a patient or you fill a prescription. Mm-hmm. And then what that leads to is universal health care. And you don't want that, right? What I want is, I'm from, like I said, I'm from Southwest Arkansas. There was a doctor down there called Dr. Grimmett. And Dr. Grimmett was both a doctor and the pharmacist and was a veterinarian too. Mm-hmm. But, the thing about it is you could go in, you could go see your doctor, paid him $50. He gave you some, prescriptions and you were well. And certain people need that. Some people, it's not necessarily that you got to go see a specialist. I mean, when's the last time you went to a doctor and you went in, they treated you? Most of the time you go to the doctor and then you have to go automatically to a specialist. Sure. And that's the way that we've geared healthcare in this country. But then also on the flip side of that, those new doctors, when I was younger, a doctor was your moneymaker in your small town. So they would maybe own the laundromat, or maybe they'd own the dairy freeze or whatever it may be. Nowadays, doctors are on food stamps in certain parts of this country when they first leave because they can't make enough money to pay for rent. They can't make enough money to even support their family. So the days of a one-income doctor household having the 6,000 square foot house and the Mercedes and that type of thing, those days are gone because they have a $600,000 debt over their head. So we're doing everything wrong when it comes down to healthcare. And I'm so focused on it because it's $7 trillion worth of wealth that we spend between companies paying for premiums, individuals paying for premiums, the government funneling all of that money. And when you think of crime and corruption, everybody's upset with Minnesota, but I can tell you Arkansas is worse. And I know that because I've worked in it. There is 50 states of crime and corruption. I have said many a times that I think that the debt that we have in this country is $38 trillion worth of theft and about $1 trillion worth of actual debt, which is not that bad to have $1 trillion worth of debt. But the rest of that's all been fraud.
I can buy into that.
It's just misappropriations of funds. It's subsidies that go to corporations. And I'm a true capitalist. I believe that in the borders of this country, if I put companies out there and they're not cheating and stealing, and this company goes under because this one has a better product and has a better business model, good. But what we do in America is we say, no, we got to prop up both. So this company over here is losing out to company A, so let me give company B enough money to compete with company A. That's not good because what it ends up happening is it's a race to the bottom. Products are not great anymore. You get a system to where we barely have any, appliances that are made in America anymore. General Electric is coming back, but, where are you going to buy your Sears appliances? We let private equity firms come in and shut those things down, and they use our loopholes to do that. We have tax loopholes that do that. So my thing is we know that greed is a problem around the world. It's been since man has been here. So what do? I think as a smart leader, you have to figure out how to gear that greed towards the benefit of the American people to grow the middle class.
Well, I know you're talking real good when you talk about the health care because my wife and my daughter, they own their own clinic. They're both APNs and they have a med spa and they do all the stuff. And also my wife is a seasoned in family practice. So she sees sick people. She's used to that. She's done it for 30 years. And so when they did the med spa, they signed up for, of course, did the insurance and all that. So she started seeing a few people. She saw somebody, billed $125, saw him for 30 minutes, filed the insurance. You know what she got? $15.
Yeah.
$15. She said no more. They canceled it all. Now it's come in, self-pay, and we'll see you and get out.
So even to do compounding, which is pharmacy, that is pharmacy. Compounding is when you add two chemicals of any kind and mix them together. So if you need I have Dr. Reddy's, or it's a mouthwash that you do, a Magic mouthwash, excuse me. Dr. Reddy's is a brand, a drug brand. But Magic mouthwash, if you want to make that, in certain states they say now that's 100% compound. Well, to get a URAC accreditation, which is your accreditation for you to even do compounding in this country, is $500,000 to $700,000 before you've even put, and that's before the ingredients. You've got to have sterile compound. I mean, just all of this stuff. I mean, you're talking about millions of dollars to do that, and they've done it because the big PBMs own their own compounding pharmacies, so they just raise these prices. The issue that I have with that is when you look at someone that wants to tell you that they want to fix these issues, well, you got to go back, like for French, for instance, go back to 2020, and he doubled his wealth. He gained $9 million in stock exchange during COVID, when we're trying to figure out if the world's going to survive, what's going on. All of our rights are being taken away, and he's running around lifting his shirt everywhere he goes to get a shot in his arm. But then you look at the $600,000 that came into his campaign account, and then you look how he doubled his wealth through medical companies. It's a fox watching the hen house. And I have promised to everybody, when y'all walk into my office, you're going to see a big, huge framed plaque that has a major, big signature, and I write a big one that says, Chase McDowell does not trade stocks. This is my income. This is how much money I paid income tax to the state of Arkansas and to the federal government, and this is my budget for my office. And if any of that increases by 10%, you better ask me why.
Yeah.
And if it increases more than 10% of any time, then I probably need to be fired, unless I have a good excuse for why that may be. Okay? And I think that, people will say, well, how are you going to fix it? Well, there's only one way to do. You got to lead by example. Okay, I can't control Maxine Waters. I wish I could.
No one can.
AOC and some
Satan.
of these. Well,
Go ahead.
You look at these people. Do y'all think I'll never be able to sit down and dine with her? Now they do. I mean, she sits right next to French Hill on his committee, and they go and they have lunch, and that's great for them. But for me, my thing is if you're intentionally trying to destroy the nation, and you call me evil because of the color of my skin and because I'm a Christian, then I don't have anything to do with you. This is all about money for these folks. They think that they're Hollywood actors and that they're trying to win an Oscar. That's just the whole thing that they're constantly trying to do.
Yep.
My whole thing is I'm just trying to work for an America to where mom and dad works a 40-hour week and they could just go home and spend time with their children. I think it's very apparent now that we're chasing a dollar instead of chasing what is actually the most important thing, which is the American family, because look at the kids today. They can't read a wristwatch. They can't count change back. And on that, you've got a congressman here that I'm running against that wants a cryptocurrency that is now our baseline currency instead of cash, but you live in a state that says absolutely not. 85% of Arkansans say absolutely not, and the 25% are imports. So, we live in a state where most people have a mason jar under an oak tree.
Yeah.
Okay, that's just the way it is. And I don't have any problem with that. But I personally know people that don't trust the bank because of the Great Depression.
Sure.
Right? And you're trying to get them to usher in an industry. And the idea of Washington is to say, if we say so, if we rule on high, everybody has to follow. Well, I'm not that way. See, I feel states have a very important purpose, and that was the foundation of our Constitution. So it's the same thing when it comes down to elections. I think on federal elections, I can control what happens in my elections. So yes, I want IDs. Yes, I want validity of elections. Yes, I want paper ballots. I want all of those things. But then when it comes down to a state, I have to make sure that they're still valid, but I can't tell the states what they can and cannot do. It's the same thing with property tax. I can't tell states. Do I support it? Yes. As a private citizen, I don't want to pay property tax. I want a paper ballot on both. But what I can do is protect federal elections. And that, to me, being in this type of industry or this type of job, you're supposed to be a gentleman about it. You're supposed to look at that and use the gray matter that the Lord gave you and said, okay, this is the puzzle and this is how we do it. But instead, they just inflame and they make big statements and they try to burn the world down over everything every day, day in and day out. And the American people are burned out by that. And what, the problem I have is, as a Republican, I know for a fact I believe in community and I believe in individual rights. That is the founding principles of our party. Anything that ventures away from that, I'm an absolutist on that. What's going to happen 50 years from now? What happens 75 years from now? What happens 100 years from now with the actions that I make as your congressman? If I give the federal government more power, what happens? So we look at the power of the presidency. Today's President's Day. It's grown a lot since George Washington, and it grows every presidency, right? And you have to look at that and say, has the Congress overstepped its place? Of course they have. Patriots Act, perfect example. I can monitor as a government, I can monitor everything you do online. I can do all these things without a warrant, or I get a FISA warrant, which are fake, fraud. They're not a real warrant. You got a congressman that says that he supports that. He thinks it's good. It's never been used against the American people. Well, 3 million bank accounts of Republicans after January the 6th were invaded by the FBI. Was upheld in a court case that, yes, that did happen. They said, yeah, we did it, and there was nothing, no recourse.
I was going to say, what has happened, though?
Nothing. And that's
no one's been held accountable, and that's why we, the people, are so frustrated. Okay.
Well, that's why we're not going to win the midterms. We're not going to win the midterms because, and I'm telling you that as someone that has 10 years of experience in this, because what we promised the American people, what have we delivered? Nothing. We promised them we were going to release the Epstein files on day one, and then we fought that for a year.
Yeah, we did.
Shut down the government because of it.
Sure.
The government's been shut down 3 times. So my whole thing is I don't care who's up there. If you can't keep a business open, if you can't keep a business open longer than 3 months, then maybe you shouldn't be there.
Hey, look, the Democrats are communist in my book. I'm speaking for myself, not you or anyone else, okay?
I feel that same way.
The Democrats are communist. Republicans just moved over to socialist.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
They're a bunch of rhinos. Now, I'm writing a podcast that I'm going to do, and it's actually 10 points on why the Republicans want to lose the midterms.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you 10 solid reasons why.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm writing it right now. Almost finished it.
Well,
okay?
you are absolutely right with the socialism, and I'll go ahead and say communism. When you have an administration that says you cannot carry a gun, when you have the Department of Justice saying that, she is attacking gun rights across the board. That would be Pam Bondi. You have the FBI director that says you can't carry a gun. Look, I'm the type of person, if you can afford an F-32 fighter or an F-22 Raptor, good for you.
Take it to dinner.
Take it to dinner. Yeah. It says. I'm a literal interpretation of the Constitution. To me, is the words that are written.
Yeah.
So when you get into some dangerous languages, and they're like, well, you have to think about the time period. No. I think about the words that are written on that in that document, and it says shall not be infringed. So that means
our founding fathers had such deep wisdom that was given by God and ordained and anointed by God that those things are timeless. You read them and they're timeless. We don't have to think about something like that.
Well, what people fail to realize is that we were really the first. The Greeks and the Romans had some of these tendencies, but we were really the first one that looked at theocracy and said no, and looked at monarchy and said no. There is not one person that is chosen to lead all of mankind, right? That's only the Heavenly Father. That is only Christ, right? Like we were the first nation that actually recognized that. Everywhere else, they still had a form of kind of a monarchy where they had one person that always ruled, right? And then you just had the blessing that, and I think it was a blessing that George Washington said, yeah, that's the way we're going to do it. Because if it would have been John Adams before him, it would have been a completely different outcome. We would have had a king because he wanted to be called Your Highness, and they wanted a palace and the whole thing. He wanted it to be such an excellency of an office. But we had a humble man, a farmer that said, no, I just want to do this for 8 years and then go home. And it set a very important mission for us moving forward. You think of the 250 years of this country, and that's why I get so angry. I truly do get angry. And my campaign staff have to pull me in sometimes, but I get angry because, there's people that live in this state that have to go down to Louisiana on the coast, and they got to be gone for 6 months to work, to provide for their family, because there's nothing here. Yeah. Okay. People, yet again, yes, there are jobs. But if you think that I want my people, if I'm ever going to tell my people, go get that $17 an hour a job when you could have a $35 an hour job, I'm never going to tell people that. I'm never going to apologize for that. I want people to have the best life possible.
Sure.
I want to be able to go to Ford Motor Company and write that check for their pickup truck, right? Or to build a new house. this district is extremely different than the rest of the state of Arkansas and the rest of my district, this little section here. Where you've got Benton and you have Little Rock and you have you have Bryant, you have that area. It's growing and it's great. But I want to expand that for the whole state of Arkansas because I've been to North Carolina. North Carolina was us 20 years ago. Now they have the Golden Triangle and some of the largest wealth. You look at the economic booms around the country. It can happen here in Arkansas, and there's only one answer to that: increase production. That's all you have to do. You have to have something where you're creating something with your hands. The moment you do that, it opens up so much for the American people because we've become a nation of services where, yes, it's great to have restaurants. It's great to have hotels and tourism. I get that. But that should not be your baseline currency because that's Europe, and we pay all of their bills. I need to produce here again. I'm trying to save the Taiwanese by making semiconductors here. If we make semiconductor chips here instead of it being in Taiwan, you just saved all of those lives because China needs those chips. We know this. Everything that I speak on, it's nothing that's new. It's not breaking, just like our agriculture, right? A lot of people hate RFK. They think RFK is crazy. I don't.
I love him.
I think it's great to know that arsenic is in Nerd candy, right? Like, I didn't know arsenic was in that. I used to eat Nerds all the time. I'm eating arsenic. That's not good. Shouldn't do that. And then we want to know why children have ADHD or they have different types of cognitive delay. Because if you're eating arsenic, and Jolly Ranchers. Everybody loves a Jolly Rancher, but it has arsenic in it.
And if you were in the pharmacy business, I've got to tell you that Big Pharma is one of the biggest problems that America has today because they got a pill for everything.
Yeah.
And we keep shoving. I'm a big RFK fan. Yeah. And we keep shoving all this crap and all these chemicals and all of this stuff in our food. That's why you do have all that you just listed. Yeah. Look at all the people that have cancer. Look at all the people that have diabetes. That's because our government wants to make us sick like that.
Well, we also halt treatments.
We may not be able to put this one over on YouTube because we'll get another strike, okay? But I'm speaking nothing but the truth.
It's funny how the truth gets you punished.
Yeah. Just cut the words out.
Folks, run over to Rumble. They won't do anything to us.
So one of the main issues that I have with healthcare in this country too is we know that certain things work. So, for instance, as in other countries, when you come down to breast cancer, they go in with a needle, a very small hypodermic needle. They go in and they use nitrogen and they freeze the cancer. So you're not splicing, you're not cutting, you're not dissecting the cancer. And then your body naturally absorbs it. Breast cancers and certain things like that. They've tried it in prostate cancers as well too. So you're not removing the whole prostate. But we won't approve that in this country. Or you can take something like Harvoni. That's a medication that you use for Hep C. A lot of people that were born, I think right around the 70s is when they stopped, but a lot of dentists reused needles. So a lot of patients got Hep C from that. It wasn't anything wrong, but it was just surgery equipment, and people weren't cleaning things properly. So you got someone 50 or 60 years old that wants to do that treatment, and it's $30,000 for the round of treatment.
Yeah.
When it shouldn't be. And the drug companies will say, what's research and development? Well, I would agree with that, other than you spend 30% more each year on advertisement.
What's your idea on homeopathy?
So my thing is I think that God gave a lot of things on this earth for us to heal things. Yep. And I always go that route first before I do medications.
Bingo! I like this guy.
I've been
seeing a homeopathy person, a lady for years. Mm-hmm. I've seen it be miraculous for my grandson.
Yeah.
He sees somebody and has for years, and it's bringing healing to his body. It's doing wonderful. And guess what? The little pellets that you take, they cost me about $12 for 250 of them or so.
Yep. Well, the thing about it is it also goes down to diet. So if you eat a healthy, clean food that's not genetically modified of any kind, you're better off. Okay, and we know this because it works in other countries that won't accept our food.
Hey, Randy, we're big steak fans. Okay, we love ribeye steaks. Mm-hmm. Let me tell you something. I had it
last night.
I just watched something. They said be careful at some of these steakhouses because they're beginning to bring in the man-made steaks, and you can't hardly tell them apart. But a steak, there was a cattle guy that took his steak and peeled it with his fork, and he sent it back. He said, "This is not real meat."
Well, I can tell you, We got to be.
You do what?
I'd be able to tell if it was real.
Yeah, I would too.
Well, we think we would. But this guy was a cattle rancher.
Yeah.
So I'm really big about using cattle that, we usually buy half a beef. And
I like that.
Get mine done naturally grown here in Arkansas, so I don't have to deal with that. That's why I was so furious about the Argentine beef coming into America. I was mad about it because it's not, first of all, and it's been reported, it did not lower the price of beef because it was going to go only to commercial, so McDonald's and Burger King and Wendy's, and I didn't like the fact that kids were going to be consuming this beef because, I mean, it has screwworm and it has all these types of sicknesses and parasites because they do not treat their cattle like ours, and it's a lean beef, so you never were going to get a filet mignon out of that type of thing.
Right.
And so I was really upset about that. You know, and I had farmers, when Farm Bureau endorsed French, I had 5 farmers call me and they moved their insurance. They said, we're not dealing with this anymore because you're the only one that said something against having an Argentine beef come into this country. Look, flooding my market with international products is never the answer. It's never going to be the answer. What I'm trying to do is protect my industries abroad. I want to protect them on the global stage. But then with inside of this border, 100% unfettered capitalism, right? So they compete. Because you got to think of this. Dodge is now owned by an Italian company. Who would have ever thought that Chrysler would have been owned by Stellantis? But in the heyday, from the 40s forward till about 2000, the competition between, I always think of the 60s because I'm a car guy, so I think of the 60s, 50s and 60s, because the 70s is when we started regulating things, and then cars got really big, which I think are beautiful, but no engine to them. They're 116 horsepower out of an 8-liter V8. I mean, that's, surprised Lincoln could make it up the hill. But back when there were competition, it was driven because the consumer, we were pleasing the consumer, and the consumer had a high expectation. Now we just hope that if we order a cake from Walmart for a birthday that the thing's spelt right. But we had such a high expectation because it was American, and we were Americans, and we all were Americans. But what we've slowly done over the last 30, 40, 50, 60 years is we've changed that, and you've got to apologize for the things that we've done, and you've got to be ashamed of the things that you've done. Let me explain something. We are an infant nation compared to the 1,000-year-old empires. And all the mistakes that were made in throughout history, we fixed them so quickly. We addressed them so quickly. I'm proud to be an American. And if someone's not, then there is so many other nations to choose from. But guess what? You're still running on American dollar. Yeah. You're still, all of those bills that you'll have or all of the safety and security, it's still coming through the bars and stripes, okay? And that's what's frustrating to me is that we have allowed ourselves to devalue what it means to be an American. I jokingly, like I told you, I was born in Texarkana, so I was born in Texas, and I tell everybody, I have a little bit of a Texas mentality. I'm an Arkansan. I'm an American first, but I'm an Arkansan. And in saying that, that means I come from good people. I come from good, honest, hardworking people that just have never had any leadership to care about them ever. And I say that because we have all of these chairmen of all of these organizations, and Arkansas is at the bottom of the barrel in everything. I just shared a video about how great Alabama and Mississippi and Louisiana have done in education. Arkansas has no excuse, because those states have actually some worse issues than we do. So we have no excuse for our children to be so far behind. There's no excuse at all because we have a governor that should be, if was a true governor, should have the full ear of the White House to make sure that the lithium that's in down south of Arkansas, where I'm from, on my hunting land, that those battery plants would be in Arkansas. So you know what? Chase McDowell's got to do it. Do you think it bothers me? Not at all. Will she take credit for it? Of course she will. Do you think I care? No. What I want in 10 years from now, after I have been your congressman, is to come back and say, look how great my children are doing. Look at my universities. They're doing fine. They're doing great. They're not teaching garbage anymore. We're producing the best lawyers, the best doctors. Look at my technical school. They've had to double it, triple it in size because we now look at technical institutes as a good thing, not a bad thing. Look at the growth rate, because I tell everybody we're at $62,000 a median income in my district. I want it to be 70 in 4 years. And then when I leave Washington, I'd love for it to be 82. They say, well, that's not possible. It's possible everywhere. Yeah. So, see, the thing about me is if you tell me no, it drives me harder because I am an American. Yeah. And Kent has never been in our dictionary. It just never has. Yeah. You like I said, you had those 1,000-year empires try to build the Panama Canal. We go down there, a bunch of Americans, a little rough around the edges, right? A bunch of rednecks, I guess. We go down there and we say, oh, there's nothing to it. And we build the Panama Canal. When all of the elite, the European elite, they're trying to figure out, oh, Hitler's going to get us. Hitler's going to get it. Even before then, the Kaiser's going to get us. We come over, we stood up, we silenced it all. When the Russians said, oh, America will fall, we'll make sure of it. They collapsed. If we hold to the tenement of who we are as a people, and we stop listening to folks that say, don't go vote, nothing will change, nothing's any different, America's going to stay the same, that's just the way things are. It is for everywhere else but here. This is the only place that I know of to where you can start at the bottom and you can finish at the top. Elon's from South America, but he didn't get his wealth until he moved to America. He had better situation than I did, but he's still the richest man on the face of the planet, and he did that through the American system, through capitalism, because that would have never worked in South Africa. Not now. So you look at these things, and that's one thing that me and the president we're lockstep on. On the global stage, you will listen to me and you will do as I say, because I pay all of your bills and I have all of your security in mind. So it's funny to me when we see this posturing, people up in arms about Maduro. Let me explain how quickly of an operation that was. It was in 2 hours. We could have pulled another situation post 9/11 where we spent trillions of dollars and thousands of soldiers dead and millions of innocents killed in the Middle East, or we could have done what we did, which I think should be the new model for military action in America, which is we flew in 2 hours. He's on a helicopter. His hair's not even messed up. He's back on American soil. He will hold trial. The only difference between me and the president is I believe personally that all of that oil is mine, and that's going to be for the payment of keeping this side of the hemisphere safe, because I believe the Monroe Doctrine holds. And what people fail to realize is BRICS is a serious threat to us, which is Brazil, it's India, it's China, it's Russia, it's the new Axis powers. Iran is definitely a part of it too, and that's why they were the ones that wanted to go to cryptocurrency. So the fact that the American government is talking about going to cryptocurrency, it's a fake currency, okay? Administration and I butted heads because in the first 4 years, we were trying to get back to a gold standard, to a rare earth mineral style, kind of moving away from the fiat system, because the fiat system is just as fake as cryptocurrency, but at least it's based on production. It's not just it's just not a series of codes created by a gentleman named Satoshi, which is, we don't even know who this guy is, but that's going to be our baseline currency. I mean, I think people fail to realize just the importance of where we're at right now as a nation and as a globe. When you have this many superpowers, the law of averages goes into place. And everybody, gets into that, I call it peacocking syndrome, to where someone wants to be number one, and they're going to try us one time. It's going to be bad for whoever tries us. And I hate that for them. I tell people I fear a war with China because I hate that I'm going to sentence hundreds of millions of people to their death. And these are not Christian people, so I'm sentencing hundreds of millions of people to hell. And that bothers me. Yeah. And I think a leader needs to know that. So when you have someone like Lindsey Graham, that the first thing they want to do is put boots on the ground, no. Because,
I'm not a fan of his. No. Hey, Chase, let me do this.
Go ahead.
I'm going to interrupt you here because I'm going to hear folks. I got to tell you, I told you we have a bunch of mavericks that's fired up here in Arkansas and that's trying to get into office and trying to rattle the cages of the rhinos that are dictating in this party and doing all the crazy stuff. I think we've got one here, and I'm thoroughly enjoying this. If you're not enjoying this episode, something is really, truly wrong with you. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to end this episode, but we're going to come back tomorrow with part 2 with Chase McDowell, and I'm going to tell you, we're going to turn him loose on this second part. And boy, all I did was introduce him, and he's ran at about 300 miles an hour, right, Randy? Yeah. So if he can outtalk me, he's done an awful lot, I got to tell you. I'm enjoying this. Come back and see us tomorrow, and I hope that you will have a great day.